On Beyond the Technology, the Education 4.0 podcast, you've been sharing how you've used technology in exciting ways to solve challenges. We've put together 3 clips from previous episodes about how to engage students in new and interesting ways. If you want to hear more, then you can find us on jisc.ac.uk/podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. There are episodes to catch up on covering everything from digital assessment to inclusive teaching and sharing best practice digitally. We'd like to say a huge thank you to everyone who's appeared on the show so far to share their story. First up, Itzel Lopez, International Officer at Cardiff and Vale College, gave us a tour of her virtual second world that she's designed for her students to study in.
So, in terms of education, the scope is huge, is limitless. We have, as you can see, an ideal simulation environment. So Second Life is an online virtual world which is reaching 21st century opportunities. And there are different subjects that you can teach here because anything you can imagine can be done in Second Life. So this platform is highly customizable. So not just environments, but also, when you talk about avatars, you can customize your avatar according to religion, ethnicity, gender. So also if you're doing, say, for example, a public services course, you can have uniform and, you can kind of like simulate maybe being a firefighter or a policeman. We've got a British Airways plane actually where we kind of take the students traveling so they can simulate the ones that want to be cabin crew students. They get that experience as well. And obviously you don't have to worry about social distancing because it's a safe environment for them to be in. But yeah, the scope is huge. You can simulate anything from potentially dangerous situations, like, working in a construction site, to simulating impossible experiences, like what's going on in the mind of a schizophrenic. So it's ideal for psychology students as well, doing, studies like gender and identity. So there's a lot of things that you can do. I think the students, what they get the most out of this interactivity is also the virtual world skills that they're developing. And that's very important, as you know, because by 2030, the jobs that will exist, we don't actually know what they will look like. All we know is that they need these skills and we need to prepare them for them. The pandemic has only accelerated the pace at which we need to teach them. But I think it's something that could be turned into an opportunity from a difficult challenge.
Next up is Miranda Melcher, a teacher, researcher and author who was studying for her PhD in post-conflict military reconstruction at King's College London at the time of recording. Miranda shared how she uses the chat panel to engage her students.
So I think the chat is amazing as a tool. First of all, it's built into any of the platforms that we're likely to use at this point, which means as an educator, you don't have to go learn a whole new piece of technology in order to make use of the chat, which is great. We have loads of demands on our time as educators, learning every single thing that our TEL teams tell us about. I'm sure they're really cool, but we don't have time to learn them all or get comfortable with them. And so making the best use and the most use of the things that are just built in is fabulous. Now, there are some different functionalities across different platforms. So I do sort of use the chat in slightly different ways depending on which one I'm on. One of my favorite ones, perhaps, is on Microsoft Teams, where you can have emoji reactions to whatever's in the chat box. You can literally click on whatever in the chat and it'll give you a range of emojis that you can use, kind of like a Facebook post where you have a bunch of different options now. And this is a really effective way to essentially run a straw poll without ever having to see your students or even have them on a microphone. So the simple way to do this is you put a statement in the chat that you want a straw poll on. So maybe it's, I fully understand this concept, because you want to see yes or no. Maybe it's you want to see whether people agree with a controversial statement. There's loads of different ways to do it. You pop that in the chat, you set a timer, and you say, if you agree, this is the emoji you should click. And if you disagree, here's this emoji that you click. They don't have to say anything. They don't have to be on camera. The whole thing takes like a minute and you've managed to hear from, maybe as many as 30, 40, 50, maybe even more than that students. And The great thing is that next to the emoji reaction, it keeps a number of how many people have clicked that one. So you don't have to do any maths even. You just look at it and go, oh, there are 12 thumbs up and there are 7 sad faces. Okay, great. And so that's a fabulous example of checking for comprehension through direct engagement as we're going along. And I can build in an hour, I can have maybe 5 of those. And I'm not significantly sacrificing time, but I can make sure that everyone has responded and they've responded in a way that I can then build off of. The other thing that's helpful is, of course, you can count how many participants there are and then count up the reactions. And so you'll know how many reactions you're still waiting on. So I can say, okay, I need everyone to respond, which means there should be 15 responses total. Oh, look, we've only got 5. We're going to sit here until that's done, right? So it means that you can actually keep track not just of like, oh, they're comprehending, but also everyone is engaging with this.
Then Hannah Mathias, e-learning manager at Cardiff and Vale College, joined us to chat about the college's personalised learning bot for GCSE, Maths and English.
The next step is for the teacher to create assignments that the students work on. So in maths, it might be on expanding brackets. The teacher sets the assignment for the students. And then when the students have submitted their work, the teacher marks it. If they've met that specification point on expanding bracket, they'll tick green. If they haven't met it, they tick red. And then this is where the bot kicks in. The bot recognizes that it's been ticked red, and then it goes within Teams. It will send the student a chat message, and it will say, oh, hi, my name's Buddy, because the bot's called Buddy. Hi, so-and-so, your teacher has marked your work, and they have recommended that you need to improve on expanding brackets. And it'll have a link for them to click on to access that resource that has been tagged with that specification point. So they then view it. They can then also check off themselves if they feel that they have met that specification point. So the system then knows that the student feels that they're confident with that. That can be overridden by the staff at a later stage if they feel that they've fallen backwards on that.
Thanks for listening, and if you want to hear more from Beyond the Technology, the Education 4.0 podcast, you can find us on gist.ac.uk/podcast or in all the usual podcast places.